Hello everyone, this is Crypto BitLaw back with another video for you today, focusing on the blockchain related legal landscape. In particular, this video is going to focus on Quentin Tarantino's NFT collection that is set to be released shortly. So before we dive in, please drop us a like, hit the subscribe button, and let us know what you think in the comments down below. We'd really appreciate it. Okay, so with all that said, let's read the news and give a little analysis as to what's going on here. Okay, so this headline from a story released by Decrypt states that Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction NFTs will be auctioned despite lawsuit. It further states, SERT Labs and the director are going ahead with NFTs minted on the secret network, even though Miramax claims they can't. So for those of you that are unaware, a few months ago, director Quentin Tarantino, he came out with an announcement that said that he was going to release some NFTs related to his Pulp Fiction movie, and then soon thereafter, Miramax, the production studio, filed proceedings in court in order to try to block Tarantino's attempt to release these NFTs, citing that he didn't actually have the right to do so. So let's do a deeper dive. This article says, in sum, the NFT collectibles based on Quentin Tarantino's film Pulp Fiction will be auctioned this month, and the sale was previously delayed due to a legal challenge from film studio Miramax. They say, film director Quentin Tarantino made news in November when he announced the planned launch of NFTs based on his acclaimed 1994 film Pulp Fiction. Miramax filed suit against Tarantino thereafter, claiming that he didn't have the right to sell such digital items. We now know that Tarantino intends to sell these NFTs anyway, despite the legal challenge that was previously filed. SERT Labs, the primary developer behind the privacy-centric blockchain platform Secret Network, and Tarantino's partner on the project, announced the news today, a month and a half after Miramax's suit was filed. The 7 NFT collectibles will be auctioned on separate dates beginning on January 17th, with the final auction to take place on January 31st. Each NFT features imagery from Tarantino's original handwritten script for the film, paired with new audio commentary from the director himself. So the interesting thing here is Secret Network, their NFTs, they feature hidden content that can only be viewed by the owner. They say Miramax claimed that Tarantino does not have the right to create and sell digital collectibles based on the film, which the studio originally distributed. The studio alleged breach of contract, copyright infringement, trademark infringement, and unfair competition, and said that Tarantino was, quote, eager to cash in on the rising NFT market. So here we can see a copy of the docket for this case. It's entitled Miramax LLC versus Quentin Tarantino, and it was filed in the Central District of California, so it's currently in federal court. Here's the original complaint that was filed by Miramax opening up this lawsuit. And as we can see, as noted previously, they sued for breach of contract, copyright infringement, trademark infringement, and unfair competition. And they ultimately demanded a jury trial. It's interesting, as we could dig down deeper into this complaint, we could see that Miramax claims that it continuously used the Pulp Fiction mark in commerce in connection with the sale, marketing, and advertisement of a wide array of goods related to Pulp Fiction. And they give examples of some pop-related action figures, a Mia Wallace costume, a tiki glass pack, some Pulp Fiction-related makeup, T-shirts, so on and so forth. So essentially what Miramax is alleging is that Tarantino's attempt to release and sell these NFTs ultimately infringe on their mark, their trademark over Pulp Fiction. You can go through all the ins and the outs of the complaint. It's going to be listed down in the description below, but ultimately coming to the prayer for relief and seeing what Miramax is ultimately seeking from the court, they are asking the court to give a judgment for damages, statutory damages, and pre-judgment and post-judgment interest, declaratory relief that the defendants have breached their agreement with Miramax, infringed their copyrights to Pulp Fiction, infringed upon their trademark rights, and injunctive relief, preventing further violations from Miramax rights to Pulp Fiction. They also want attorney's fees, costs, and then the catch-all, any other such relief as the court may deem just. So turning back to this article, we can see a tweet that was linked by the Tarantino NFTs account, and it's pretty much advertising these NFTs and what they constitute. And we can see, yes, it's Tarantino NFTs, 7 unique pieces from the handwritten script, powered by secret NFTs, private ownership, private metadata. Don't quite know what that means, but I'm assuming the fact that you own it and the metadata related to the ownership and the transfer is all private. Access control, so I guess the owner can choose who can actually access or view it. It's making Tarantino to be the greatest writer, director, filmmaker of all time. He's good. I love Tarantino. And so, yeah, this is pretty much the summary of his NFTs in tweet form. And the article continues that an NFT is a blockchain token and effectively works like a receipt and proves ownership to a digital item. And this brings us to our next point. You know, a lot of times with these NFTs, it's not really spelled out who owns what and what sort of rights you get. There are certain projects that expressly maintain that when you buy the NFT, you actually get the copyright to the material that you purchase. So if you buy a picture of or a drawing of a stapler, we'll call it the stapler collection, and the issuer says, hey, when you buy this NFT, you actually get the copyright and all of the rights therein associated with this drawing of the stapler in the stapler collection, you would actually get that copyright. If it's not expressly stated as a general rule, you don't get transfer of the ownership of that copyright. Another issue to consider is related to the actual hosting of these things, because a lot of times it's not expressly stated where these things are going to be hosted, the duration, if there's any provisions related to paying for that hosting. So what you have is a serial number or a link that's loosely related to some sort of digital content like a JPEG, where if the hosting goes down for that JPEG and it's not backed up, then you've essentially paid for a broken link. And so what's unclear here is the issue of what you actually own in terms of the copyright, where it's hosted, and other issues related to the general overall ownership and what you get in terms of the transfer of the rights and the sale of these NFTs. And it's further complicated by the fact that Miramax claims that they actually own some of the rights too. So if they go ahead and sell these things, Tarantino, and then it's later decided that Miramax actually has some sort of an ownership interest, that's going to really complicate things further down the line. But I guess we'll just take them one at a time as they're coming. So this article continues that in Tarantino's original 1993 agreements with the studio, he maintained the right to commercialize reproductions of the script. Since the NFTs are based on the original script, Tarantino's legal team believes that he is in the clear. Miramax wrote in its complaint that Tarantino's reproduction rights are, quote, far too narrow to include NFTs, and the studio suggested that it was considering making NFTs as well. It continues, in a statement provided to Decrypt on Wednesday, Miramax attorney and this Proscure Rose LLP partner, that's the law firm, Bart Williams, said, quote, there's been no attempt to dismiss any of Miramax's claims by Tarantino's teams, nor have they filed any counterclaims or motions against Miramax, and since Miramax filed its lawsuit, the promotional website and Twitter account for the proposed sale have scaled back the unauthorized use of imagery from Miramax films. Now, that was kind of a loaded statement on behalf of Miramax attorney. I don't know exactly when it was given, but if we go to the docket, we can see that, no, there really hasn't been any sort of motion practice in this yet. A lot of it is just the general, pre-litigation, procedural, technicalities, parties getting served, parties having counsel associated, pro hoc vice, so on and so forth. What we did have, or what we do have now, rather, is a answer to the complaint that was filed on December 9th that we have over here, and it's also linked in the comments down below, where Tarantino does actually dispute a lot of the assertions by Miramax. One of the spicier bits that we could see here is that they said, quote, now a shell of its former self and flailing under a new ownership consortium, Miramax has decided to bite the hand that fed it for so many years by bringing this offensively meritless lawsuit. Now, if that's not a scathing rebuke of Miramax's claims, I don't know what is. We'll do a little deeper dive into this answer to the complaint a little bit later. So this article continues that Zeiskin, a executive from the company that Tarantino is going to release the NFTs on, he confirmed that Tarantino and SCRT Labs will not wait for the legal process to conclude. He believes that the partners have, quote, not only the morally higher ground, but also the legal higher ground in this dispute. They say, quote, contractually, everything relates to the script, the screenplay itself, which is the purest initial form of his creation, and one that doesn't really touch the production itself, he said. Our lawyers and his lawyers have explained to us all of the legal agreements specify very clearly that he kept the rights to everything related to the screenplay itself. He added that the collaborators and their legal teams believe that Miramax filed a legal challenge to slow them down rather than pursue more aggressive tactics. Quote, if Miramax really wanted to stop these, there are other legal ways to force our hand. Now, this is kind of correct in part. There are other more aggressive ways to stop the actual sale of these NFTs. We could see they did ask for, what is it, right here in the complaint, injunctive relief. So an injunction is pretty much the court telling one of the parties that they can't continue to do something. Now, a more aggressive tactic would have been to file for a temporary restraining order. And if they would have gotten the temporary restraining order, that would have been a more expeditious way to prevent the sale of these NFTs. And they didn't actually do that. It's a higher bar. The plaintiff has a higher burden of proof in actually meeting the requisite legal standards in order to obtain a temporary restraining order. But it would have been a faster process rather than waiting for the litigation to play out and actually getting this injunctive relief. So taking a deeper dive into Tarantino's answer to Miramax's complaint, we could see that in paragraph 43, Miramax sent a cease and desist letter to Tarantino's counsel on November 4th, and that the defendants, Tarantino, denies that the cease and desist letter's allegations were actually true and correct. So as we may recall earlier, Miramax's lawyer said that there's been no attempt to dismiss any of Miramax's claim by Tarantino's team or file any counterclaims or motions against Miramax since Miramax filed its lawsuit. Albeit it is early in the litigation process, so there really hasn't been much motion practice, as we said earlier. In terms of dismissal, as we could see here in the answer, Tarantino's team asserted a number of affirmative and other defenses, namely the defense claims that Miramax failed to state facts sufficient to constitute any of their claims for relief. They also said that Miramax lacks standing to sue. So if you can't, that's another issue that's got to be decided whether or not Miramax actually has standing. And if they don't, then the case will get kicked out. The defense is also raising the fact that their use of the NFTs is not trademark infringement or unfair competition because the actual use of the NFTs and sale of them constitutes fair use. They're also asserting that the defendant is authorized to engage in the conduct. They're also asserting that the alleged infringement is not covered by the registration, so the trademark or the copyright. They're also asserting that the plaintiff waived any claims. He's stopped from asserting any claims. This is a new one. Is the complaint in each and every claim alleged therein is barred as the plaintiff acted with unclean hands. And they're also alleging that the complaint's third and fourth claims are barred based on the First Amendment. So they have a free speech defense, and they raised any additional defenses that weren't expressly stated in the original answer. And then we go to the prayer for relief, where the defendant, Tarantino, asked the court that the complaint be dismissed with prejudice, that judgment be entered in favor of the defendant, that would be Tarantino, that Tarantino and his crew get reasonable attorney's fees under the Copyright Act, that, the Lanham Act, that's the Trademark Act, they want reasonable attorney's fees based on that. They want court costs, and then to catch all any further relief, such as the court may deem just and proper. So in terms of where we stand now with this case, we could see that the answer was filed on December 9th, and then the most recent entry was on December 13th, and it's an order setting a scheduling conference by the judge. So this thing is still playing out in litigation. I foresee this being a long and winding road to an ultimate resolution. Who knows what's going to happen? Maybe they'll settle, maybe they'll end up going to trial. But we do know in the meantime, pending any further motions or emergency motions filed by the plaintiff seeking emergency injunctive relief or a TRO, it appears that Tarantino and that blockchain company are going to go ahead with the sale of these NFTs. So I guess we'll keep you guys updated and see how it plays out. Please, if you like this content, give us a like, subscribe to us below. Also, drop us a comment, let us know what you think, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter. We are at CryptoBitLaw. Thanks for watching, and we will see you guys in the next video.